So, welcome everybody to what is now known Talks on Tuesdays. And thanks for joining us today. Hi, Renee, you're back. And I'm here with Mary. And as I mentioned, Chelsea is on her way to visit her grandbaby. So she may or may not be able to join us. She said she'd try, but I'm not sure. And I thought that it would be fun for us to just maybe talk a little bit about what we talked about the last 2 weeks because they were interesting topics. And then when that discussion kind of dies out, we can move on to how are you feeling today? So, and welcome to Cecilia. I see you've joined us. So, 2 weeks ago, Mary was talking about how to make the other seem less like an enemy.
Mhm.
And we kicked around a few ideas, and it's so prevalent in today's society. And then last week, Chelsea brought up friendliness, which kind of fits with the continuation of that theme. So I thought I'd see if anybody had anything over the last couple of weeks kind of perk up for them around those topics that they wanted to share. Um, and if anyone has anything, feel free to jump in.
I'm sorry, Barbara. The friendly one I remember, and the one before that was what again?
It was how to make the Mary, do you remember the exact title? Something
It
about
was,
how to make the not the other person not the enemy.
yeah, how to not dehumanize or not to demonize the enemy or
Hmm.
we perceive as an enemy.
I
Uh,
see. Okay.
yeah, because that seems to be a tendency. And actually, I've been thinking about this, Barb.
Okay.
It's one of my quandaries has been how do I make change or contribute to making change and bring these ideas of friendliness with me, of bringing this idea of humanizing what, for lack of a better term, the other side or the other way of thinking um, into this sense of my fellow humans. And I'm going to be starting to attend some of the protests that are coming up. Um, and what are some triggers I can use or strategies I can use to keep that good space while I'm there? I don't want to be shouting and shaking my fist, but I will be around a lot of angry people, probably. And yet I do want to be able to do something. So that's my quandary. And if you have any suggestions for me, I would appreciate that.
Well, what have you done in the past when you've been in a situation like that? What have you thought of?
Um, well, I don't have a loud voice. So I just kind of, I hold my sign or whatever, and I get caught up in the emotions around me. And that's what I would like to avoid is depending on what those are, how do I keep from or how do I remain true to my center and to being open and calm and recognizing that for whatever reason these difficulties have come to us, um, there is no evil in the world, there is no enemy, and yet I have to make change. And these thoughts are constantly fighting um, inside my head.
And you're not the only one who deals with that. Hi, Jolie. Welcome. I'm glad you're able to join us on your phone. Um, Yeah, to me, it's really just remembering to find that balance
Yeah.
that we're caught up in the now and being here, we want to make a difference and we want to do something that's positive, and
Mm-hmm.
yet also realizing that everybody who we see as them
Mm-hmm.
are playing their role in the whole bigger scheme of things, and lately I've been noticing how for me, I feel like almost like, and this isn't exactly it, but this is the words that I find are helpful to explain it. I'm standing on a river bank and things flow by down the river, and there's all these, everything that flows by is like an event in life.
Yeah.
you know, something that's happening and something I'm engaging in actually. But I'm not only engaged in the river part of it and being involved with that, but I'm also standing on the bank watching it and realizing that this is going to play out and it's going to be as it is, and I'm going to do my best while I'm on in that scene. And but a lot of it is remembering to maintain that balance. You know, I was at a protest not that long ago. In fact, I think I posted some signs on Facebook about it, and and it was I had a little sign and it was fun, and I we marched around downtown Gresham, and it felt good to be part of that. But I was also, while I was marching and even calling out, I was also maintaining my own light, you know, and my own like, I know who I am and I'm making a difference, but I'm not being caught up in the hate. And just remembering that, even if you have to write it on your hand the day of the protest, stay centered, within the light, and then you'll see that, and that will help you kind of find that balance. But I don't know, any other thoughts and ideas?
Well, being a long time protester and so forth, I've come to see that, most of the time when we're protesting, it's something that is very degrading to to humanity, to the earth, to the animals, and that's why we're there. And protesting can't always be nice because they're not listening to when we, have a meeting with them, or they won't even give us a meeting, or they'll laugh at us, or they'll slough us off. Well, it comes to a point where, you're going to need to go out there and protest and let them know how unacceptable this is and how unacceptable their behavior is. In terms of hate, you can hate what they're doing, but you don't have to hate them per se. That's
Yeah.
how I kind of see it.
Mhm.
Um, and none of the protests in our history, especially in the United States, I mean, go back to Martin Luther King, they were not nice. They were nonviolent, but they were not nice. If they were nice, do you think they would have ever gotten any civil rights? They would just walk all over them. So that's part of the territory. But in terms of the balance, yes, you can, join the other protesters and do what they're all doing. And it takes a little practice if you're doing it a fair amount. And after the protest, you might debrief or something, and then let it go. I mean, I can do this. I know some people can remain very upset. And in some cases, that drives them to continue. I can understand that, but uh, yeah, that's another whole story. But yeah, it just isn't nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I recognize the need to unload sometimes and vent. And sometimes the relief that comes from that is helpful getting you back to ground zero. Because we're humans, we have these emotions, and I think we have them for a reason. Um, and yet, this has gotten a little bit for me off topic, but I don't know if we need to stay on topic. So we're in charge here. Yeah.
Wherever it leads us.
Yeah. So, what else is going on with people? Do you have any quandaries or dilemmas or new strategies you've come up with lately?
Renee, go ahead.
So I am coming to a place of reckoning, you could say, or maybe awakening, in that I am taking ownership for things that I have. It's not as if they're new to me, but I'm realizing more and more that sometimes it takes me forever to make decisions. And I'm really not enjoying that process because time keeps moving forward and I've still not made decisions about some things. And I need to get more clarity and I need to be more decisive and I need to take action within maybe a certain time frame. Maybe I need to have a deadline or assign myself a deadline or something so I don't sort of continue to explore the options and more options come up than there were before. And I love exploring the options. This is part of the problem. It's fun. There's so many options sometimes that I don't know which one to choose. So that kind of spills into all areas of life. You cannot know what you really want until you can eliminate what you don't want.
Yeah.
And what I don't want is to be in that perfectionist mindset that keeps saying, no, it's not quite right yet. Oh, it's not, this doesn't work and that doesn't work. And no, I'm not completely happy about that. Well, I feel like saying to myself, okay, dear Renee, just shit or get off the pot, because how much time do you think we have? I keep seeing the world around me blowing up all over the place, literally, sometimes under my nose, and I'm being made very aware of the fact that everything and anything can happen at any moment in time. We're not all safe. It's not all pretty. I don't know how to sort of digest all of it or even wrap my head around it or even, acknowledge that it's all happening. But sometimes you just kind of have to say, well, how important really is this? I know it is important, but kind of in the scheme of things, does it really matter all that much? Maybe we're just getting a little bit out of proportion and not able to see the forest for the trees. I'm just, kind of opening myself to expressing how I'm trying to move in a very sometimes confusing and chaotic world where I'm trying to make some sense of how it's all happening and why it's all happening, and not be affected by the way I used to be, but just to, I'm sure some of this will not make sense at all, but that's what you gain clarity by expressing where you're at and opening and as honestly as you possibly can say what you're saying. So I think I've done my part, and I dropped my tablet yesterday, so it really doesn't work very well anymore. So now I'm going to have to make another decision about buying a new piece of computer equipment, but that's fine. All to the good. It will be a better option than what I've had, and whatever I've had served me well, and that's fine. Everything just is as it is, but sometimes it's just too much to bear. That's, yeah.
And sometimes I think it can get scary, worrying about making the wrong choice. And I can understand, you're wanting to get all the information and, continuing. And yet sometimes that is kind of almost like a little delay tactic. So I look back at some choices I've made over my life, and I've stopped saying that was a bad choice or this was a good choice. And I've kind of been more like, this choice really led me down a path that brought me some difficulties, but I learned so much from it. And I think that everything that opens up in front of us offers some sort of good and some sort of challenge. And maybe some are more challenging than others, but there's always something to be learned, even from those challenging choices. And so I don't know. I like to think that there is no wrong. Again, some are easier, but how are we going to know? And I think about, well, what if I didn't like do this with this person? Then it's like I would not have learned that lesson. I may have gone in with somebody else and learned that lesson another difficult way. There's always I don't know. I think it's more trust and just moving forward with trust. But I understand. I can relate to where you're at. So, and that kind of brings us to the topic of today, since there's not much that we've wanted to talk about over the last couple of weeks, and that is, how are you doing today? How is everybody? Where's everybody at? Just kind of emotionally or physically, or anybody have anything they want to share and just, talk with the group about, because we are a group of friends and, we've been meeting for a while. And Jules, go ahead. Yeah. You're muted though. I know you're on your phone, so it might be hard to unmute, but good luck.
No, I got it. I got it. I didn't know if you could see me, so I was waving and everything. Well, okay, I guess I can share how I am now today. Ever since I moved here, it's been kind of I can't say roller coaster, but in a way, kind of slow moving roller coaster. a lot of things changed in my life. And I feel like ever since I've been here, I've been not well. And coming to terms with that. And, um, I just found out I've had this long COVID problem, and I found out I had a telehealth appointment yesterday from the doctor in Phoenix. And basically, at the end of it, it's like, he mentioned another medication. I said, "What are the side effects?" And the first thing he said was nausea. I said, "Forget it. I don't want to, I don't want another medication." And so basically, that's it. I mean, that's all he could do. He said, "Well, okay, let's check in at 3 months." So I just, I said, so because sometimes this, it can last like a decade, and I'm like, okay. So I've just come to terms with saying, okay, this is the way I'm going to be for a while. And I'm just, well, I've been dealing with it the whole time, but just like, okay, I'm not upset. Um, and I'll ride the roller coaster, and do what I have to. I mean, I feel fortunate that I don't have to work, to pay the bills, and because we're retired. And um, today, actually, I am going to lunch with a woman who a friend of mine, Rosie, who actually comes once a month and cleans the house, keeps telling me about this woman that she thinks I should be friends with, because she thinks that we would just be, we're both from Los Angeles, and she's around my age. She's in her 70s, and she's been telling me this for like a couple of months. And so finally we made a date, the three of us, to go to lunch. And it's kind of weird, I mean, it's, I'm going to meet this girl. Okay, are we going to be friends? I mean, what if I don't like her? And I put in there, what ifs, don't go there,
Yeah.
Yeah, and but other than that, things are good. We've done our garden. We've got all sorts of things planted. Our trees are flowering, and we've got blueberries on the bush, and we're going to have all these great vegetables, and I really enjoy watching that all come to fruition.
Nice.
Because we've got a lot of fruit coming, hopefully. So, and the dogs, when Jesse's not pulling me down, they're great. I've got a gentle leader on her.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and we've been doing that, and that's good. So I feel safer now. And yeah, and Joe's good, and yep. So there you have it. That's my
Well, that's good, Julia. It's nice to hear. And I guess my question for you is, it sounds like you got to a place of acceptance.
right.
And did you notice a change, any change at all, when you kind of just realized, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how it is, and I'm going to
Um,
accept it.
I maybe, but what I can say is, for example, when you make a decision or something, or you just let things go, other things happen. You know what I mean? This morning, I like to listen to binaural beats or hemi sync.
Mhm.
You know what that is, right? And
Mhm.
I was drying my hair, and I wash my hair, and I always put it on before I dry my hair, and I listen to it as I'm doing other things. And it's always like tones or music or whatever. But this one was a video of a guy talking that has a website about HemiSync and everything. And I was about to turn it off, and I thought, let's just listen to it for a little while. And it was really informative. And he talked about humming,
Mm.
which I've heard about before, but for like stress and in your what do you call it, your nervous system. It's for your,
Uh-huh.
and it was, it was amazing what he said. And so I started humming,
Uh-huh.
and do that, which is also a healing modality, and you do it with while you're listening to the hemisync, and it's more effective, more intense, and everything. So anyway,
Nice.
so I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, it's a nice share. Thanks. And I'm just so pleased. I mean, you sound better.
mm,
So,
thank you.
yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. I'm glad you shared. I'm glad you made it today and I'm glad you shared. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see we have a couple other people with their hands up.
Oh,
Is that
cool.
what you're trying to indicate, Louis Trace? I know Gino has his hand up and as does Cecilia. Julie, are you done or did you want to
Hi.
share any more?
Thank you, everybody. Hi, everybody.
It's so nice to see you again, Jules. Okay, Gino, go ahead and then Cecilia.
Yeah, Jules, check out the chat. I left you a reference there that might assist you. You might be interested. That's all I wanted to say.
I
Oh,
see it. Thank you. Okay, I'll read
You're
that.
welcome.
Cecilia, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi, everybody. Welcome. And I've been really enjoying exploring the world of animal communication. And Anna Breitenbach, she's the one who did the video with Spirit, that the black leopard. And listening to her, going back to the topic I joined in on, I'm sorry I was a little bit late. Um, she was talking about how, and I've heard this from several other animal communicators, or interspecies communicators is what they say. They had become one with the spirit of the elephants and the animals that are going to be extinct or heading that way, whatever. And they're saying, how can we help you? What can we do? And they're ready to write notes and, what do you want us to do? And how, do you want us to write letters? Do you want us to do whatever, protest, whatever? And their response was, when you think about us in great love, think about us in great joy, and think about our well-being. And that is the most helpful for us. Don't be angry, be joyful and loving when you think about us. And that is so amazing and beautiful, because that's what I told my parents when I moved out from Orange County to LA, and they were all worried about me and stuff. And I said, don't worry about me. When you think of me as happy and joyful and successful and living my love. Do that. Think of that. That's how you're going to help me. And that's what the elephants and everybody was saying about them. Don't fight for me. Love me and think of me in great joy. And you don't need to protest and fight. And so that's what I wanted to share, because that's how I feel as well. So.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And when you think about it, it makes so much sense. So thank you, Cecilia, for sharing that, because yeah, that is beautiful. Thinking of us all with love and just kind of that brings you back to being love,
Yes.
being the love. And that's really, I think, what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
Did Louis Therese have something?
want to share, Louis Trace? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you're up.
Okay. I would like to share something. I have quietly promote to the people who are running here on our beaches next to the sea, lovely, but with tackies, running shoes and things like that. I said, it's so awesome that you are doing the exercise, but just take your shoes off so that you get the real contact with Earth, and that you get some of your electromagnetics that is built up in your body out, and your whole foot muscle, everything is working. And take off the sunglasses, because in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, the sun is not that sharp and things like that. And you won't believe it. A lot of people started to take off their running shoes and they start running with their bare feet. And they tell me it is a great feeling, and it feels for them liberation, like a child running again with their feet on the ground and things like that. So that's one of the things that I want to share. The other thing is, Julie, that you can a little bit consider. We have a lot of people who just could not recover after COVID. And then we started wearing tobacco patches. And we bought the first set, two of the first set, and we wear the 1 week, and we give 2 weeks time, and then we wear another one. And even myself, I had such a great difference. It was as if previously you get out of the one thing and immediately into the next. So perhaps you can also try to follow the tobacco patches. It gives you great energy.
Can I just say that you're right? And I forgot to mention it to the doctor, and I'm so mad at myself because I heard about the patches, and I'm going to have to contact him and ask him. But thank you for reminding me.
Yes, please. Because really it is a great, 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 great difference. And it is really, but if I can say, you put your patch very early in the morning on. Otherwise, it gives you still energy, but you are still, awake at night. And I would suggest it's a great idea that you take it up with your doctor, because I don't know what, do you have heart conditions or what, but it's really everybody down here. And I believe there is a lot of places that all of a sudden there is a ban on tobacco patches and things like that. So while you can still do it, please do it. And then I would like to share something. I was out of water from early this morning, and I used all the water up, and I was running there at the beach and things like that, and coming home, there's no water. So the only thing was a beer. So I'm drinking a beer, and it zonks me. So, and my water's back, so now I can go and take a shower.
That'd be kind of hard to take a beer shower. Well, it'd be kind of interesting, I would imagine, but it's good that you were able to improvise.
It would be very fizzy.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
hair will be beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, thanks. Thanks for
So
sharing.
please, people, take off the shoes, even if it is for 5 minutes. Find a place that there is some ground, and just wiggle your toes. By wiggling your toes, all your organs is also presented in your feet and your hands, and that is a great way to stimulate them as well.
Isn't that called earthing or something like that? I think that
Yes,
it's earthing. Yeah,
yes.
when you go
I
barefoot on the ground. Yeah.
slowly getting the people from Jeffreys Bay to hug trees, to look at trees, and brag with me. Look, I've got a photo with a tree.
Well, that's terrific. And South
Yeah,
Africa
I'm
is
very happy about that.
well, thanks, Louis Therese. That's a good thing to think about as summer comes for us. I know it's becoming more like winter for you probably in the autumn.
Yeah.
But for us, it's summer, and so we can all take our shoes off and go play around outside. It sounds good.
Watch where you step.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, thanks everybody. We will definitely be in touch next week and give you updates. And thanks for joining us today. It's great
we-
seeing everybody.